Hello, hello. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited to share some time with you. I'm really hoping that my technology angels are with me tonight because they sure haven't been with me all day. So it's been a little bit of a challenge, but that's all good. I'm sure we'll be fine. So who all's here? Hey, Cynthia, good to see you. Nettie's here. My girl Rose Ford, my girl Deb Hall. All my peeps are in the house. Gail Marie, nice to see you. Pamela, Julie, Dream Journey One, good to see you. Um, Northwest Montana, yeah, I've been watching your pictures, Deb. Just leave that porch light on. I'm coming out. Bella Luna's here from New Mexico. Might be visiting you too. All these cool places. Yeah, so really good to see you tonight, guys. I've been feeling, oh, thanks. New color, right? Yeah, so I'm being graceful. I'm kind of letting the gray come in, so we had to kind of make a change. So thanks for the support. I appreciate it. Yeah, so tonight we're going to be talking about your birth name and how it affects your personal year. So many of you have had readings from me before, and you know that when I do a reading, I focus a lot on the cycles that are affecting you, right? So there are tons of cycles that are affecting you. The first things we look at are the long-term cycles of the pinnacles, and we look at the life path periods. The personal year, of course, is really big. But the personal year, it's not enough just to know what your personal year is. And that's kind of what everybody talks about, right? So I'm one of those weirdo numerologists that I'm a 7, right? So I like to kind of dig in deeper than most. And the essences, the topic we're going to be talking about tonight, the essences are the reason why I'm here. The essences are what turned me on to numerology. Because when I guess it was, and if you're on my newsletter list, you would have already read this if you read my newsletters. I know you do, right? But in my newsletter listing, I was talking about, in 2003, I was in a 6 personal year. So the 6 personal year is about domestic drama and stuff. And I wasn't a very happy camper. I was really unhappy. I felt really trapped. I was trapped in my marriage, and I had my business. My business was in my home. And I was the sole breadwinner at that time. So it's not like I could leave my husband and my children, right? Because, that's where my money was coming from, right? So I felt really, really trapped. And it was just an awful year. I would say it was probably a pretty bad depression I was in, although I didn't say it at the time, I didn't know it at the time, but yeah, it was. Anyway, several years later, when I got involved with learning a little bit about numerology, the first thing I wanted to do was go, what the heck was 2003 all about, right? And I had an understanding of the years from 1 to 9, but I didn't know, hey, Brenda Lee, I didn't know about how the birth name affected your experience. So when I went back to look at it, I saw that I had a karmic debt essence at that time. And I'm here to tell you that had I known that in March of 2003, I was going to go into a bit of a shithole and that I would come out of it in April of 2024, I would have known that there was a light at the end of the tunnel, but I didn't know, right? I didn't know. So, when you don't know, you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You can't say, well, this is just a crappy time for now. See, the thing with the essences, and you'll find out here in a second as we go through the presentation, the essences are typically they'll last for 1 year, right? So from birthday to birthday. The personal years go from January into the end of December. And high five, pinky waving. Right back at you, Frida. So yeah, the personal years begin January 1st. Contrary to the astrologers who believe it begins on your birthday, none of us can prove it, right? So let's just agree to disagree on that. I observe the idea that our personal years begin on January 1st and they end on December 31st. So there's all kinds of cool stuff in between. But the essences typically start on your birthday, and they usually end the day before your next birthday. But it is quite possible for an essence to repeat itself several times. So, but in my particular case, this was like what I call a red flag essence. When I see a karmic debt essence coming up, it's indicative of a profound experience. And depending on where it lands, in my case, this 19-1 landed during a time when I was going through a really miserable time in my home and my family and my marriage. So it really depends on where it lands. So I'm going to try and get to some of your questions after, but I'm going to do a bit of a slide presentation because I'm a smart girl tonight and I figured out how to upload them. Yay me. So let's go and take a look at those for a second. All right. So we're going to be introducing transits and essences. And again, guys, this might be something you're not familiar with because there's very few numerologists that even talk about it. But this is one of the big things I'm going to focus on when doing readings for you, because you got to know. You just have to know. There's just so much more to know than just the personal year you're in. You have to know what is the influence. So I want you to think of your personal years like a black and white template. Okay, every year from 1 to 9 has a theme to it. And if I'm in a year of 5 and you're in a year of 5, we're going to have a very similar experience because a 5 is a 5 is a 5. It's the same for everybody, right? It's change, freedom, unexpected events, blah, blah, blah. But your birth name is different than mine, right? So that creates the essence. So the essence is a huge indicator as to how you're going to go through your year. So I want you to think of the essence as the color that we are now going to throw against a black and white template. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to do the calculations. It's honestly, when I'm doing charts for people, I honestly use my computer to do it because it's just too timely for me to do it where I'm doing so many readings. So, but I'm going to show you how to do it manually. All right, so let's take a look. Everybody see that okay? Hey, Karen Cartier from Quebec. I just saw you an hour ago. Good to have you here. Okay, Niagara Falls. Canada's in the house. Yay. New Zealand's in the house. Awesome. This is amazing. Love this. All right, so the transits and the essences, they are considered to be medium-term cycles that describe what I would call probable or predictable events, like a trend, if you will. Okay, so the transits and the essences describe the events to which the approach described by your personal year is directed. Okay, so your personal year has a theme, and the essence is going to kind of tell you where you're going within that theme. So the transits, the essences, and the personal years are the most important cycles to observe of all of the progressed cycles in a numerology chart. And most of the cycles that we look at when we're looking at a numerology chart, or a soul signature as I like to call them, are based on the birth date of an individual. But the transits and the essences are the only cycles that are actually derived from a person's name on the birth certificate, right? So when you're doing this kind of work, you have to be absolutely certain that you are using the correct birth name as it was published on the birth certificate. Okay, very, very important. All right, how do I change slides? Oh, here we go. Okay, introducing transits and essence continued. We're looking at each letter in the individual name of your birth name. At birth is going to describe different events during specific periods in your life. This is going to make more sense to you here in a minute when I show you the chart. The letters in this case are referred to as transits. So each letter in your birth name, first name, middle name, last name, even if you got a couple of middle names, it's all good. All of the letters in there are referred to as transits. And when we add up all the transits, we actually end up coming into what's called an essence. All right, so the influence of each letter or transit is going to last a given number of years based upon the numerical value of that letter. So it's good to have a copy of the Pythagorean alphabet close by when you're doing this kind of work. So the numerical value of the letter is always going to be reduced to a single number. So master numbers are not observed when we are calculating our transits. So here we go. Before we calculate the essence, we first of all have to calculate our personal year. So simple math, people, this is the only kind of math I know how to do. Ask any of my math teachers, right? All of them would roll in their graves if they knew what I was doing for a living right now, honest to God. Okay, so we got to determine what your universal year is. Now, 2020 to, oh, sorry, I should have changed that. I was updating the slides and I failed to make this 2023. So imagine for a minute that this is 2023. 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 3 equals 7. So we know that 2023 is a 7 universal year. Now that in itself has its own set of influences, right? The 7 vibration of 2023, regardless of what personal year you were in, is going to bring in a predictable influence, right? So 2023, the 7, it's introspective, it's reflective. People are getting more and more into spirituality and the studies of things that are interesting to them that way. What do you want? Where do you want to go? How do you want to get there? Who do you want to be with? Where do you want to live? Right? It's all the questions. And it's very heady, right? This is a head case here, as I call it. So many of you might be feeling really trapped this year. I'd be curious to see that in the chat if you want to put it in there, how you're feeling through 2023. The 7 causes you to not feel confident about making decisions, feeling a little bit unsure of yourself. Like, what do I do? How am I going to get there? You know, what happens if this happens? Or what happens if I do that and this happens, right? So it does cause a lot of second guessing and a lot of self-doubt. And that's because the energy is causing you to stay in your head, right? So, but that influence of the 7 is going to affect you differently depending on the personal year that you're in. So for example, if you happen to be in a 2 personal year, the 2 personal year is about relationships. Okay, now let's put the umbrella of the 7 on top of that. The 7's thinking about what? The 2, the relationships, right? What do I do about this relationship? Excuse me, a 1 would be about new beginnings. The 7 is what? Thinking about what's the new beginning I should be starting. You get the idea. Likewise, if you want to find out where was I back in 1998, do the numbers. 1 plus 9 plus 9 plus 8 equals 27. 2 and 7 equal 9. So we know that 1998 was a 9 universal year. Okay, so whatever year you're, a lot of overthinking. Welcome to my world, sister. Gilbert, it's a great comment. So the, if you want to explore, where was I? Like, for example, with me, when I was thinking about 2003 and it was just such a horrible year for me, I thought, what the heck is that all about? I had to figure out, well, what was the universal year? The universal year was a 5, 2003. 2 plus 0 plus 0 plus 3 was a 5. The 5 was about universally, everybody was looking for their freedom. Everybody was looking for change. Everybody was feeling restless. My personal year was a 6. What was I restless about? My home, my family, my marriage, all those sorts of things. So you can connect the dots when you look at all of the components together, right? So there's just a few more examples there of how you can do this. All right. So now how to calculate your personal year. You're going to take, in this case, I'm showing you an example of September the 25th. So if somebody's born, it doesn't matter what year they're born, just the day and the month, right? So September 25th. September, break it down to a single digit. It's a 9. The 25th day, 2 and 5 equal 7, right? Now add that to this year's universal year. So we have 9 plus 7 equals 23. And 2 and 3 equal 5. So this means that this person who was born on September 25th is in a 5 personal year. Don't worry about what that means right now. We'll talk about that in a minute. But just so that you know how to do that. Hey, Betty, welcome to the chat. Julie's feeling trapped in her job. Yeah, a lot of people are. And France is saying in Quebec, they put first name after form of Marie, then the middle name, then the first name. How do I put those then? That was in the 50s and before. I'll show you here that in a second here once we bring the chart up. It really doesn't matter how it appears on the birth certificate as long as you get the calculations right. So whether it's first name first or second name first or last name first, it doesn't matter. Just so long as when you're putting it down, that you're putting it down the way that it appeared on your birth certificate. Good question, though. Okay, another example. Born on August the 22nd. All right, so right there, that's significant, right? Because the 22nd is a master number. Anytime we see the numbers duplicated, we have 2 2s in this case, that's a master number. Deb Hall was born on the 11th day, so double 1 energy, that's a master number, right? So in this case, August equals 8. That's a single digit for August. It's an 8. The 22nd day, we're not going to reduce that. We're going to leave it as a 22. And we know that 2023 is a 7 universal year. So month, day, year. So we're going to add 8 plus 22 plus 7 comes to 37. 3 and 7 equal 10. And 1 plus 0 equals 1. So in this particular case, you are in a 1 personal year. Now, if you happen to be in my Clarity Seekers community, we do things a little different, and there we go a lot deeper, right? It's not enough to say that it's just a 1 year, right? So you could have these numbers could have potentially have added up to 28. That means something, right? These are all codes. So we crack the codes a little deeper when we're doing our numerology within the group. But just to keep it simple in here, we're just going to reduce it to a single digit. So in this particular case, this person is in a 1 personal year. So it's simple math, guys. Just it's easy to figure out. In the case, Tina, in your case, July 22nd, July is a 7, 22nd day, right? So 7 plus 22 plus 7, whatever that adds up to. Reduce it to a single digit, and that's what your personal year is. All right, now let's take a look at how to calculate the essence for each year. All right. Now, in this case, we're introducing Adam, James, Cat. Okay. This over here, this funny looking alphabet here, this is what we call the Pythagorean alphabet. This is what we use when we're doing Pythagorean numerology. Now, there's other types of numerology, but I happen to observe Pythagorean. So we know here that all the numbers go across 1 to 9. Those are the numbers that we observe. And we know that there are certain letters that respond to each one of these vibrations. So, for example, the letter A, J, and S respond to the vibration of the number 1. Okay. B, K, and T responds to the number 2. And eventually, when you do this enough, you don't need this alphabet. But for those of you who are just learning, you might want to take a screenshot of that or whatever. You can get it on my website too. I'm quite sure it's on there. Anyway, those are the numbers, those are the letters, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to create yourself a little chart like so. All right. So you've got a few columns going on here. Now, in this case, Adam's just got 3 names, Adam, James, Cat. Now, Adam could have been Adam, James, Michael, George, Cat, and that's fine. You just create a column for each name. So we start at 0. Okay. This is the age that we're at. So we're going to create a column. If you got a pen and paper, you might want to just kind of create the chart as we go. So we've got the age. We start at 0. These are what we call transits. Okay. So his first name is Adam. So this is where Adam is going to go. And the next name is James. Oops, sorry. And the last name is Cat. Okay. So first letter of his first name is an A. So we come over this chart. We go, okay, so where's the A? There it is. How many times is that vibrating at? It's at a 1. So we're only going to write down the letter A once. Okay. The second letter in his name is D. So we come over here and we look and we see, oh, D responds to the number 4. So we're going to write down the letter D 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Okay. The next letter is an A. We already know that responds once, so we're only going to write it down once. And then his next letter is an M. Okay. So that responds to the number 4. So we're going to write the letter M down 4 times. And then we'll start again. Okay. And you just keep going until the age that you're curious about, right? So I stopped at 11 just because I didn't have a lot of space on the slide, right? But you can go as long as you want. So these are what we call transits. Again, here's James, J. We look over here. It responds to the number 1, so we write it down once. The A we know responds as a 1. Write it down once. The M is worth 4. And we know that the E, when we look over here, comes to a 5, right? So we're going to write down 5 times. And then we finish with the S for James. And likewise, we do the same for Cat. So these are what we call the transits. These are the letters, okay, which are referred to as the transits. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add them up straight across. And that becomes your essence, okay? So D is worth 4. A is worth 1. And K, I'm sorry, I should be doing it at the top here. I'm sorry. A is worth 1. J is worth 1. Okay. And the K is worth 2. So when we add that together, it's a 4. So James' life path number is a 7. That means that he was born into a personal year of 7. Whatever your life path number is going to be the same as the personal year you were in when you were born. Okay. So I was born into a 7 personal year because I am a 7, right? And James is a 7 as well. So we know that James was in a 7 personal year, but he came in with a 4 essence. Don't worry about the interpretations of all of this. We probably won't be able to get into too much of that tonight. But I can tell you that, if he was an adult and he was in a 7 personal year, the 7, what do we know about the 7? We know that 7 is a head case number. That's a thinking number, isn't it? Right? 2023, we know that this is a head case number. We're always stuck in our heads. But the 4 relates to foundation. It relates to work. So he's probably, let's say he's 25 years old. James would probably be thinking, that's the personal year, thinking about his relationship to work. Is this really what I want to do? Maybe I need to go back to school. Maybe I need to advance my education. Maybe I need to thinking about leaving it and taking on a new job, right? Maybe I should start a savings account. The 4 is about security. Okay, so that's what we can tell from that. Now, when we go down here to the next year, we've got different letters, D, A, and K. So the D vibrates at the 4, the A vibrates at the 1, and the K vibrates at the number 2. So we're going to add 4 plus 1 plus 2 equals 7. Now, obviously, his year is now the 8 personal year. Okay, so the 8 personal year is going to be more related to money and inner power and authority, your own personal power. Are you being taken advantage of? Do you need to start setting up maybe some healthier boundaries? But you know, you get an 8 personal year with a 7 essence. Well, this is kind of you thinking about your money. Here's that 7 and the 8. You're thinking about the money. What should you be doing with it? Should you be asking for a raise? Should you be advancing yourself in some way? Then this one gets kind of interesting. He goes to D, M, and A. So that's 4 plus 4 plus 1. That comes to a 9. So now he's got a 9 personal year with a 9 essence, right? This is hardcore kick it to the curb sister kind of an energy, right? Because the 9 we know is about the endings, releasing, making room for new beginnings, new opportunities. So in this case, he's got a 9 on a 9. This is a big push for him to release and let go of whatever it is he feels is holding him back. Because, of course, the next year, he's going to go into a 1 personal year, which is all about new beginnings. Now, what you have to remember is that each personal year has a theme to it, and you're only going to have one opportunity to take advantage of that energy once in a 9-year cycle. So, for example, if you're in a year of 1, you kind of want to know that, because that's the year to plant some seeds that will be influenced to grow and mature over the next 9 years. You don't want to miss your year of 1. Now, that doesn't mean to say you can't have a new beginning some other year. It just means that if you want to be in alignment with the universe and your own personal energy, it's better to start something new in a year of 1. It's like if you want to start a business, but you're not quite sure you want to get it started in your year of 1, at least buy the domain name, at least talk about it, and buy a sign. I don't know, do something that sort of sets your intention. So it's kind of interesting here. When we go to D, M, and T, that becomes 4 plus 4 plus 2, and that's going to equal to 10. And 1 plus 0 equals 1. So now he's in a personal year of 1 with a 1 essence. That is giddy up and go. Like, that's like winning the lottery when you get a 1 on a 1 like that. That's pretty amazing. Love that. So it doesn't really get much better than that, right? And the other thing too, if you look over here, I put down, you don't have to, but I just put, out of interest sake, I put the universal years down here. So here he is in a 1 personal year with a 1 essence in a 5 universal year. So what do we know about the 5? The 5 is about change, unexpected events, didn't see that coming moments, wanting some freedom, wanting to shake things up a little bit. So it's looking for something new. So it's a great year. That's a really nice lineup to have the universal year of 5, which is encouraging you to change it up, shake it up, make it different, right? Yeah, and then this little guide I put over here is simply saying, A, J, and S becomes a 1-year transit, meaning that we're only going to write down those letters, A, J, and S, 1 time. Okay, and the B, K, and T, we would write that down 2 times. Okay, so that's what we call the transits. And when we add our transits up, they come to our essences. Now, this is the point in time when y'all go, wow, Anne, that is so freaking cool, right? I love it. Okay, notes to consider. Transits, they start on your birthday and they finish the day before your next birthday, unlike the universal years, which go from January 1st to December 31st. Again, I get it. There are some astrologers that believe differently, and that's okay. But astrologers don't observe essences either, right? So this kind of makes sense to me how this rolls out. But it's okay. If this isn't your belief system, that's totally okay. So we know that the transits begin on your birthday and they finish the day before your next birthday. They are considered to be medium-term cycles, but they can last anywhere from 1 to 9 years, right? They can go quite a long time. I've seen it go for quite a long time. Now, here's the thing with the essences. When an essence just comes in for 1 year, so for example, when I went through my 19-1 essence, that's a karmic debt essence. When I went through my 19-1 karmic debt essence, it was a heavy hitter. Like, it was big, right? So when we see things like 19-1 13-4, 14-5, 16-7, all those karmic debt essences, when they come in for just 1 year, it's like, look out, right? There's going to be some noise happening. You'll also see 22-4 essences and 11-2 essences. I know that when I was in 2013, I was in a 7 personal year. Again, that's about reflecting upon things and looking at your life and kind of pausing for a minute, looking over the last 6 years and deciding, am I going in the right direction? Is this really what I want to do? Or maybe I need to change it up a little bit. I came into an 11 essence when I was 53 years old. And I know my chart very well. I know that I had never been in an 11 essence before that. So the 11 essence was a heads up that I would be, something in my life would be very illuminated. Okay. So it's kind of like the universe on your birthday kind of goes, whoosh, rips off the blinders, right? Hauls your head out of the sand and goes, girlfriend, look around. You got to see this. Like, you really, really have to see this. You have to see what you're in. And I seriously woke up and looked at my ex-husband and went, oh my God, I knew I wasn't happy. I knew it wasn't the best marriage, but it certainly wasn't the worst. But I didn't realize how much it had broken down until the essence came in and shot the light on it, and I couldn't miss it. I had to, couldn't miss it. So I made some changes and I left. And it was the best thing I ever did. But without that essence showing me the way, kind of shedding that spotlight on that year, I don't know, I'd probably still be there. So the transits are going to describe probable events or probable trends of the events in life. Remember, it's the color that you're going to throw against that personal year. So to recap those personal years for a second, if you're in a year of 1, it's about new beginnings, okay? Making room for new beginnings, or it is new beginnings, new opportunities, lots of go-to energy. It's forward motion energy. It's a very masculine, get her done kind of energy, right? And then when you shift into the 2 personal year, it's no longer about you. It's about you and one other person. So it becomes a year about relationships. When we go into our year of 3, the year of 3 is about you, that other person, and one other person. It becomes very social. Because in the year 2, you don't really feel like being overly social. You just kind of want to hang out one-on-one, small, intimate groups. But the year 3 is going to bring in an interest in being a little bit more social and creative and expressive. And then when you come into the 4, we think about the 4 as like 4 posts into the ground. This is about your foundation. This is about practicality and work and attention to detail. And that gets kind of old really quick. So when we come into our year of 5, that's change it up, shake it up, make it happen. It's about change and freedom and expansion. And then when you come into the 6 says, oh, no more freedom. You got to get responsible, right? So the 6 is always about responsibility to your home and to your family. Then we should come out of the 6 and go into the 7 going, back off, people. I'm all done with home and family. I need some time to figure this shit out, right? So you kind of back up and take a back seat and sort of rethink and relook, revise. It's kind of like being in a Mercury retrograde for a year. It's kind of like what 2023 has been, right? So, and then we go into the year of 8, which is about manifestation. It's about your money. You thought last year about how you're going to do it, where you wanted to go. The 8's the year to do it. And then the year of 9 is about releasing and letting go of anything that is standing in your way of a new beginning. So it's a cycle that goes around and around. Okay. So each one of us is in there somewhere. And each one of us is being influenced this year by 2023, which is that crazy 7 vibration. Now, I also want to mention that if you guys are in a bit of a shithole, if you're finding yourself feeling kind of stuck and trapped, that's kind of the effect of the energy of the 7 for 2023. Good news is that the universal energy and your own personal year vibration is going to start shifting around the 1st of October, end of September, 1st of October. And then we go into what I call the shadow phase. So that shadow phase is when you're going to have the influence of whatever your personal year is, but you're also picking up on a little bit of the influence of what next year is going to be for you. So for example, I'm in an 8 personal year this year, right? But I'm starting to feel loose ends that need to be tied up. It could be, friendships that you want to release and let go of. It could be behavior that you're no longer going to tolerate. It could be clearing off some debt that you have, things like that. So the 8 is now shifting into the 9. Next year I'll be in my 9 year, which is all about the endings, releasing and letting go. So you're feeling that transition of not just your own personal year, but you're also feeling the universal year. Finally, the universal year is going to start to shift away from this horrible 7 energy that drives me batty because I am a 7, which brings up another point. If you are duplicating the energy. So if you are a 7 and you're in 2023, it's a harder year. Like if you're a 7 life path number, it's a harder year when you're in a personal year of 7 or a universal year of 7. If you're a 6 life path number and you're in a 6 personal year, you're going to feel it more than I am because I'm a 7, right? So when those numbers are doubling up, you're starting to feel it more. So anyway, that universal vibration is shifting from the 7. It's moving into the 8. The 8 says, giddy up. I've been in my time out chair long enough. I can finally feel a bit more comfortable and confident about making some decisions. We really shouldn't be making big decisions under the influence of the 7 because the 7 has you trapped up here. And no good decisions were ever made from the head. The good decisions are always made from the heart, right? So we want to make sure that we're making decisions that are working for us, that we can hang our hats on, that we can feel confident about, that we're not second guessing. That's what happens when we shift into the 8. So all of us, regardless of what your personal year is, we're all going to feel a little bit more settled, a little bit more confident as we start moving into, the end of September, 1st of October. So there's that to look forward to. Can't wait. So transits, essences, and personal years are the most important of the progress cycles. And that is why a goodly amount of the time that I spend with you, if I'm doing a reading for you, is going to be spent on the cycles, because how else are you going to map out where you're going, where you've been? I like to look back a year. I want to see, well, what the heck was last year all about? What did you learn, from last year? And it helps to validate what you're going through, right? I think it's really important. Whether I do a reading for you, you do your own reading, or go somewhere else, it doesn't matter. I think it's important that you reflect on where you've been, right? Where are you now and where are you going, right? So that's what I try to help you to do, is kind of map that out. So unlike the life path number, the transits are based on examining your birth name and the vibration that it brings. Remember, this is really unusual because it comes from your birth name rather than coming from your birth date. Most of the cycles come from the birth date, but this particular cycle comes from your birth name. And the influence of each letter creates what we call the transit. Okay, remember we mapped out all of those letters. When we add those letters up, we come up with what our essence is. And remember, the essence is the color that you're going to inject or infuse into your personal year experience. And this will give you a much clearer idea of what this is going to be about. Example, last year, 2020, 22 of last year, I was in a personal year of 7. But my essence is a 14-5 and has been for several years. I'm kind of done with it, right? But anyway, I've got the 14-5 essence. What does that mean? Well, it's a code, 1, 4, 5. And it also has a karmic influence. So I knew going into that the 7 personal year, me being a 7 in a 7 personal year, is going to cause a bit of confusion, right? It's going to cause me to be a little ungrounded, a little heady, thinking too much, overthinking everything, right? Bring in that 14-5. And that brings in even a little bit more confusion, because the 1 is about you developing confidence in yourself, in this case, me. The 4 says, I have to create a step-by-step plan. The 5 says, so that I can have the freedom that I want. Okay, 1, 4, 5. That's how that breaks down. But that's hard in a 7 year when you're totally confused, directionless already, right? And you bring in the 14-5. The 4 that sits in between the 1 and the 5 say, I have to come up with a plan, right? I can't just go straight to the 5 and go, woo, let's do this, right? Let's make the change happen. You can't. You have to slow down the train. So armed with that information, I know I have to be patient. I know I'm being asked not to jump forward, okay? So each letter of each name in the birth name defines the events in specific time periods in your life. So it's a wonderful, it's timely. I grant you that. If you don't have someone do it for you, it's a timely exercise to do it, but it's worth it to map it out and check on your essences, because it will validate numerology for you. I promise you that. It's pretty crazy. as I say, it's the thing that turned me on. Essences is what really turned me on to numerology. I knew what my personal years were, but when I figured out what my birth name was doing to my personal year, it was like I couldn't even believe it. And I was so grateful when I learned it, because I've been through other essences that are really very difficult. I see my clients going through them all the time, right? And not to make this about me, guys, as you know, I teach through experience. I'm not teaching it to make it about me, but I know from my own personal experience of 64 years, I know that I've been through all of the essences at some point in time in my life. So I kind of know how they can roll out for you. So it's important to reflect upon your own personal essences so that you can say, okay, we've done this. I got through it. I'm okay. I got out the other side, right? It would have been nice to know when I was going to get out the other side. That would have been nice to know. But you probably didn't know, and you probably suffered through it. But now you don't have to, because you've got a clue, right, on how to make this work. All right, let me just stop that for 1 second. I'm going to go and see what all the chatter's about here. Yeah, Deb, that's so true. We've had many late night conversations about this, haven't we? About the essences. And you're absolutely right. You bring up a really good point here, that it sure would have been nice to know about essences, or just numerology on the whole, even if just a simple understanding of numerology. Man, if I had only understood numerology when I was raising my kids, it would have been easier for me, and it would have been easier for them. You know, I think about my oldest son, who is a 5. And I was trying to fit that round peg into a square hole, and it wasn't working. And he was fighting me all the way. And now he's 40 years old. He doesn't have any post-secondary education whatsoever. He's a self-made guy, and he'll be a millionaire in the next couple of years. So, but he did it his way. When I finally stepped back and went, oh, right, you got to learn your way. You got to do it your way. It took stress off of me, and it took a lot of stress off of him, and he figured it out, right? So 5s will learn through experience. And when I look back, you know, when I looked at the essences in his chart and of my youngest son's charts too, I can see where they were struggling. And I understood, in retrospect, I can go back and go, wow, if I'd known this, I could have handled them much differently. I could have said, hey, it's crappy right now. It's crappy because this is what you're supposed to be learning from it. And this is how you get through it a bit easier. I promise you it's going to get easier. All I try to do with this, guys, is give people hope, right? Even if it means reflecting upon the past. And that's why I do, when I'm doing a reading for people, I do reflect upon the past a little bit. And sometimes you'll say to me, wow, Anne, I'd love to know what, 2010 was all about. Well, we'll look at it. Let's take a look at it. I think it's important. So, the essence, good question, Coco Gabs. The essence can't go longer than 9 years. 9 years is as long as the essence can go. And that's just because of the way that the numbers add up. The numbers can't add up more than the 9, if that makes sense. So, but you can have repeated essences. Oh, you're welcome, Kathleen. I'm glad you were here to see it. Such as the 19 years, yeah. Deb saying, learning this info saved my life. I wish I had learned this before I raised my children. Yeah, so true. And Brenda Lee, yeah, your transits from 2019 to 2025. I remember these. I remember we looked at your chart really closely, didn't we? And where'd you go? You're bouncing up there. Hang on, I can do this. There. My transits from 2019 to 2025 are identical to 1995 and 1991. Tremendous change in the 90s and big changes now. Difference, awareness of choices and decisions is making a positive impact. I love that. That's awesome. Good for you. And you are such a great student. You really are, because I know you study this really closely, and we've had many conversations about this. So you see the patterns and you see what's happening. And I mean, patterns repeat themselves, and there's a reason for that, right? When we're not getting with the program, the universe is going to go bonk, So you might as well get it the first time. So that's awesome. So Michelle, that's great. Excited to figure out what year I'm in now. This is so fascinating. Happy I caught this. I'm glad you're here too. Awesome. Oh, Anand, I'm so glad that you're here, mental health expert and healer. Yes, this is so good that you are here, because if there was one wish that I had, it would be to put this in the hands of every mental health expert there is. Because, if you understand just a little bit about numerology, if you understand a little bit about the personal years and the essences, imagine the magnitude, the difference that you could make in your clients' lives. Like just giving them hope. This is what this does. It gives you hope, right? I've been in the same essence for several years, and it's frustrating as hell, right? But I know what it is. I understand it. I know how to apply it. I know that I have to be patient. I know that I can't just go willy-nilly. I have to have a plan. I'm an Aries. I don't like plans, right? It goes against my nature. But I know that right now, that's the only way I'm going to survive, right? So that's what you do. You apply it. It's like a beautiful secret code that we're cracking. It's awesome. Coco Gabs, what if the name is longer, such as Daniela? It's okay. You just go longer down the chart, right? So you'd write the D down 4 times. You'd write the A once. You'd write the N 5 times. The I is going to go for 9 times. The E is going to go another 5 times. 2 L's, 3 and 3, and then the A at the end. So you just keep building it down, all right? And then you go to the next one. The next column would be your middle name, and just keep going down. Now, sometimes you'll have a name like Danielle is a long name, right? So let's say it has, 25 characters to it in its first rotation going down. And then you have a middle name that's maybe Anne, 3 letters, right? So you'd start with an A, and then you go down 5 times for the N, another 5 times for the N, and then you start at the A. And you're probably going to repeat the name Anne 2 or 3 times before you get to the bottom of Daniela. And that's okay, right? So sometimes your charts kind of look like this a little bit, if that makes sense. It's okay. How important is doing the married name? It's not. In the case of essences, it's only related to birth name, right? So the birth name is not something that you chose. The birth name is a vibration that you chose prior to your incarnation. So you chose your date of birth based upon the lessons that you wanted to include into your lifetime this time around. Your birth name creates the talents and the gifts that you want to support you on your journey while you're here. So in my case, I'm a 7, right? So 7s kind of like to meditate. They like to be quiet. They like to be out in nature and spend a lot of time by themselves. But I couldn't be a very good spiritual teacher if I just sat in my room and read books and meditated all day, right? I wouldn't have like the impetus to get out here and do things like this. But I chose the vibration of my birth name to be a 5. And the 5 says, bring it on. I don't care. I'll do radio. I'll do TV. I'll do podcasts. I'll do live YouTube or whatever. It doesn't matter. See, that number supports my 7, right? So that's where it comes from. So that's why it's important that you only work, in this case, you only work with your birth name. Now, further to that, Leo Moon Goddess, further to that, your present name, your current name, the way you introduce yourself does change the vibration that you're putting out there. So people will see you a little differently, but that's a whole different thing, right? So it does, I just want to affirm that the current name is what we call a minor expression. That is something that's important, no question, but it's not relevant to looking at the essences. Great question. What else we got here? And you're in a 5 essence with a 5 personal year. How's that working for you? Oh my goodness. In a 7 universal year. So the 7 universal year is what next? What's happening? And the 5 essence with the 5 personal year is like a lot of unexpected change, right? So how you choose to respond to the change is going to create your reality. So be sure to make some really good choices and be adaptable and flexible, because typically the 5 kind of shakes you up. It's always the year that I say, be a little bit more proactive. Like make sure you've got an emergency kit in your car and one in your house. Make sure your first aid kit's up to snuff, and don't drive when the weather's bad and things like that, because the 5 is about the unexpected. All right. So Deb's saying, let's see. First half of this year was very challenging. However, since July, I am having the best year in recent memory. I left a 9 essence in March. I am now in a 1 essence and a 3 personal year. Yeah, that's a nice lineup, right? The 3 is more expansive. The 2 is a bit of a low energy. We know that, if you're in a 3 personal year this year, we know that you were in a 2 personal year last year. So that was already a bit of a heavy year, right? The 2 personal year is a little heavy. It's more focused on relationships, but you're tired because the year before that, you're in a year of 1 where you're running really hard. So when you come into that 2 personal year, you're just kind of like, oh my God, what just happened here? I'm tired. And you had that 9 essence going on. So that was looking at a lot of relationships in your life, saying, who do I need to kind of release? Who do I need to walk away from? Can be family, can be friends, can be neighbors. It's just you start to really look at people a little differently. So that 2, the personal year of 2, would have been all about your relationships, and that influence of the 9 would be saying, what relationships do I need to end? Or what do I need to end within the relationship? Let's say you're hooked up with someone who's an alcoholic. You could be saying, this is a deal breaker for me. Either you stop drinking or we are done. Right? So it can be an ending within the relationship, not to say that the relationship ends, but the way in which it operates would end, right? And because the essence goes birthday to birthday, we know that every time you come into January, which is the case for everybody, unless you're born on January 1st, when you come into January of any given year, you're bringing with you the essence that was at play for you the year before, right? So last year you were in a 2 personal year with a 9 essence. You brought the 9 essence with you, and it stayed with you until your birthday in March. And then it changed, right? And it changed to a 1 essence. So, and I know I'm going to do your reading, I think it's Thursday. And I want to just give you a little heads up. It's looking really good. So I can't wait to share it with you. I was actually going to email you a little heads up about that, but it's looking really good. So awesome. Okay, let's see here. Franz, I'm hoping you're still here on the call. I just want to let you know, I think I answered your question. It doesn't really matter how it appears. I know that in Quebec it's a little bit different, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. It's all going to add up the same way. But just put it down in the columns the way that it appears on your birth certificate, and you should be good to go. Let's see. New Zealand's in the house. I love that. All right, let's go down here for a second. You know how to navigate through it. Yeah, you know what? It's awesome, Cynthia. That's great. It's so true. It's absolutely true. You know how to navigate through it, and that's absolutely the thing. Information is key. Information is power. Why wouldn't you want to know this stuff, right? Like I've had numerology readings from people before, but nobody ever talked about the essences. I'm like, hello, it's kind of a big, fat, hairy deal. It really helps me to know how I'm going to navigate through the year. How do I get the best out of the year? Because again, you only have one opportunity in 9 years to take advantage of the energy that the year is bringing you. So if you're in a year of 2, that's a year about partnerships. And if you're looking for a partnership, go look for your partnership, because this is the best year. It doesn't mean you can't have a partnership somewhere else, but this is the best year to have your partnership, right? In that 2 personal year. Okay, and Deb is asking me, will you link the video about parenting with numerology? Okay, so here's the thing about that. I had a course set up. Maybe you're talking about the old one. Oh, do I have to? That was the worst video I've ever created in my life. That gives me the incentive to redo it. I do have, if you dig deep enough in the vault on my YouTube channel, I do have a video that talks about parenting with numerology. I made it probably 7 or 8 years ago. The quality is garbage. It's really bad. The sound quality is terrible. Videography is terrible. It's the first webinar I ever created, and it's really bad. However, I will say that the information in it, thank you for reminding me, the information in it is kick-ass. It really is. The content is great. But you know what? I'm going to redo that video. I think thank you for that incentive to do that, because it is a good one. And I think, knowing what I know about numerology now, I can't even imagine bringing a child home from the hospital without knowing about it's like first aid and numerology, right? That's what you got to know. Yeah. So maybe I'll post the link to it, but only if you guys are nice and play nice in Sandbox and give me wonderful reviews and share it nowhere. Oh my. Yeah. So Frida, you're saying you're in a 9 essence in a 2 personal year. Yeah, that would be challenging. So the 2 personal year is already a lower energy. You're probably seeing that there's some relationships that are kind of going by the wayside. Or the way that you look at people a little differently. It's kind of like you kind of do inventory and decide who's going to stay and who isn't. And if you're in toxic relationships, I've learned this firsthand. If you're in toxic relationships, if you don't release yourself from that toxic relationship, the universe will do it for you. And it ain't pretty when they do it. Okay. So you really need to take inventory when you're under this kind of a 9 essence or a 9 personal year, because a 9 is always going to be about releasing. But the clue here is that Frida is in a 2 personal year, right? So the 2 personal year we know is about relationships in her life. And what does she need to do about ending them or ending the way in which they are operating, right? So you might be fighting with an ex-husband, and now it's like, we're putting an end to this. We're not doing this anymore. We're going to do it differently. Let's go for counseling or whatever, right? So hopefully that helps a little bit. Brenda Lee says, yeah, patterns are paramount. Absolutely they are. Hey, Brenda Mailer. I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. I was late joining. Curious how you are calculating the essence. Oh, you're going to have to watch the replay on that, because that was quite a long piece of the presentation. But it's in here, so just watch the replay on it, and you'll see it. I also have a video on YouTube that might be helpful as well. I think it's called, There's So Much More to Know Than Just Your Personal Year, or something to that effect. I'll see if I can find it and post it for you down below, because that'll help you out a little bit. Okay, let's see, just a second here. Yeah, Cynthia. So 4 personal year. So next year will be an 8 universal year. Hang on, let's bring this up. Cynthia is saying we've got a 4 personal year right now that she's in 2023. So next year is going to be an 8 universal year. That means that you're going to be in a 5 personal year. Okay. So already you're starting to get a little antsy. You're already starting to chomp at the bit. You're already feeling the need for change, right? Because that's what's going to happen. When you come into September, October, you'll really start feeling it. It's like, I don't want to pay attention to the details anymore. I don't want to have to follow the rules. I don't want to have to follow the plans all the time and be so regimented and you know, that kind of thing. So you'll start shifting into that 5 vibration, which is going to be all about change. It also can bring in, though, the unexpected related to your money. So that might mean a windfall. It could mean you could lose some money. I'd be really careful with your identity, you know, with your PIN numbers and things like that next year, for sure, because the 8 personal year is about the money. It is about power. It is about authority and such. So I would be careful in that respect. So, but what I really do is I would try and figure out what your essence is, because that's going to have a bigger influence than just the universal year, right? So I'm looking forward to the 8 universal year. Like, I really, really am. If you think about it, the 7 is this year, the 7 universal year is affecting all of us, and we are all seeing things differently. There's a lot of exposure going on in the news right now, dare I say, right? Whether he's guilty or whether he's not, it's not for me to say, and I'm not going there. But I'm just saying that all of these allegations and all of the court indictments and all that stuff coming on, it's exposure, right? And it is a 9 personal year for the Donald. So, you know, if his is a really interesting chart to look at. We just covered him actually in our numerology class that I do in the Clarity Seekers. I teach numerology twice a month in the Clarity Seekers community, and we did a whole study on him. That's what we're doing right now, is we're studying people in the news and celebrities. And I think next time we're doing O.J. Simpson, really, because his life path number is a 19-1, which is somebody who abused power and authority in a previous lifetime. What? So, you know, he's interesting to look at. So I would encourage you to check that out, because we have way too much fun in there. Everybody needs to be in there. Alex is asking, has MBTI any correlation with numerology? You know what? I've never really looked at it, but I know that there's numbers involved in MBTI, so I can only imagine that, yes, there would be definitely a correlation. It's kind of like when people ask me, you know, is the time of birth important in numerology? And I'm like, nobody's ever, that I'm aware of, nobody has ever written anything about the time of birth. in relationship to your numerology chart, but I can't imagine that it doesn't have some kind of connection. I just don't know what it is. I'm not sure how to interpret it, but I'm certain it has to. It's all codes, right? It's all codes. So, yeah. Okay. Let's see. Maria says, I use numerology with all my children and my grandchildren. Good for you, Maria. I love, love, love to hear that. That's amazing. Pamela P. So what does a 9 essence mean? So it depends on where it lands, right? So if it's a 9 personal year with a 9 essence, that is a big influence to release and let go of anything that is standing in your way, right? That's major house cleaning, right? Clean out your space, clean out the junk in your trunk, so to speak, clean out all the material stuff that you've collected over the years. Empty this, any limiting belief you have. It's time to release it. Or the people in your life. We look at 3 aspects when we're under the influence of the 9. But again, if the 9 is in a 4 personal year, the 4 is typically about your work. If you have a 9 essence, chances are your work's going to end. That doesn't mean to say there's nothing to replace it. It just means that the capacity in which you're working right now will probably change, right? If it's in a 2 personal year, a 9 essence in a 2 personal year, probably an end to a relationship, or the way in which that relationship is functioning right now. Oh my, so Julie, I have to talk to you. Okay, so you've got an 8 personal year and an 8 essence. How's that working out for you? Because for me, it sucked. I remember, 10, 12 years ago, whatever, I was coming into an 8 personal year with an 8 essence, and I'm like, yeehaw, because I'd blown my marriage up, and financially I was a little strapped. I thought, here we go. This is going to be great, right? Not so much. So don't be fooled by the 8s. 8 personal year with an 8 essence can be really challenging financially, to be honest. It can be a time when, in my case, I wasn't aware that my accountant hadn't done my taxes correctly, and I owed a whole bunch of money back to the government that I had to pay back in that year. My HST, taxes and whatnot, they weren't done properly. So I was faced with a lot of taking care of that. But, it was awful. But at the same time, it allowed me to clean things up so I could get ready, clear stuff out in my year of 9, the following year, and get ready for the year of 1, which is really where things started to kind of take off for me. Now, the 8 personal year is about your money, for sure, but it's also about your relationship to money. It's also about your relationship to your self-worth, your boundaries. It's a time when you need to really take into consideration how people are treating you, and ask yourself, how have I taught them to take advantage of me? Am I always the one that says yes, even though I don't want to say yes? Then you kind of taught them that you're going to do it, right? If you're always the one to jump in and take responsibility for everything, then guess what? Everybody's going to expect that from you. So you kind of taught them that. And when you choose not to say anything, you're not stepping into your power, and you're giving your power away. And that basically you're teaching people how to treat you. So that's kind of what the 8 on 8 can look like. But I'd be interested to hear from you as to how it's rolling out for you. Pamela P, 4 personal year, yeah. Oh, so Maria, you're in a 7 personal year this year with the 7 universal year. Yeah, so you got to be careful not to make any massive decisions this year, because you're not really in a good position to do that. You're too invested up here. You're thinking too much. That's what we're supposed to do, right? In the 7 personal year, that's what you're supposed to do. But I just feel like you need to kind of step back from that and really tap into your heart. So try to eliminate the word think from your vocabulary. Everybody needs to do that. Just eliminate the word think. It's the big F-bomb. Just get rid of it, okay? Because when we say I think, what you're doing is you're signaling the brain to think. We don't want to think, right? Whenever we think, we're making a decision based on what the ego thinks we should do, okay? So rather than saying I think, what I want you to start saying is I feel, right? When you say I feel, you're going in, you're heart-centered. The decisions you're making are from the heart, because you just alerted the heart that you want to feel something. So when someone says to you, what do you think we should do this afternoon? Rather than saying, I think we should do that, pause for a second. It's going to feel a little weird and uncomfortable. Pause for a second and go, I feel, just wait for it, that we want to do this, right? And you'll never be wrong. You'll always, and it teaches you to go to the heart center without tapping into here. And those of us who are influenced by the 7, we have a tendency to go to the head by default, right? So it's a good exercise for us. So Brenda Lee, 2024 and 25 are 3 essences for me. Personal year and universal year are the same. Big change 2026 for me. Essence is a 19-1. Yeah. I know this. You faced a lot of changes with work and whatnot, for sure. But I think it's going to be fine. And the 19-1, you know what? Depending on where the 19-1 falls, can be really good. For me, it wasn't good. It was a nightmare for me because it was a 6 personal year in a year when I didn't want anybody around me. And the 19-1 essence causes you to kind of go within and isolate yourself. The 19-1 says, I don't want anybody knowing I'm suffering, right? My image is important to me. I'm not going to let anybody know that I'm in pain, right? I'm just going to go down the drain all by myself. So it's a year when the 19-1 comes in, we're reminded to say, hello, I can use a little help over here, right? But the 19-1 is very egoic and doesn't want us going there. So we want to make sure that we are asking for help when we need it. You're going to be fine. You're always fine. MK is in a 3 personal year. Awesome. So you're going to find that when you start shifting into September, October this year, you're going to start shifting into that 4 personal year, which is going to be less fun, dare I say. It's not that it's not going to be fun. It's just that the 4 is more serious by nature, right? It's kind of like, all right, I socialized, I had fun in my year of 3 and maybe a little creative and stuff, but I got to get to work. I got to put my big girl panties back on and get attention to detail and focused and build that foundation for myself. Because whatever you build next year, MK, whatever you build next year is going to set the tone and set the foundation in place for the next few years, right? So it's a big year for you. Yes. So Julie's asking, does being in the same personal year and essence being the same essence intensify it? Yes, it does. Absolutely. That's like for me. I've been telling people all year I'm in a 7 personal year. I'm not. I'm in an 8 personal year. But the influence of the 7 universal year on this person who is a 7 has been intense, to say the least. So that's a good question. Hey, Lauren, good to see you. Liz Schmitz is in the building. So life path, 22-4. Okay. The builder, personal year of 5. Okay. Change. 22-4s aren't always happy in a year of 5, and I know you're kind of struggling with that a little bit as we've talked. The 5 personal year is about change and uncertainty, right? And then you got that universal year of 7 that keeps you in your head. But you got the essence of the 17-8. That's you thinking about your money. That's how am I going to spend it? What's the best decision we can make? And you know what? I don't mind that the 3 essence for your personal year of 6. That's you decorating your new place. That's you expanding on it, bringing new color into it, or I don't know, renovating or something. I wouldn't worry about that at all. I think that's okay. So Ginger, you're in an 8 essence in 1 personal year. Well, that's kind of cool. So I'm hoping that that's been a good experience for you, because typically when I would look at that, I would say that the 1 personal year is newness, right? It's a masculine energy. It's forward moving. That 1 personal year relates to starting something new. Now the 8 could mean new money coming in. You could have an inheritance. You could have a new job. Maybe start a new business. It can also be you setting boundaries and saying, that's it. You crossed the line too many times. Guess what? There's a new bitch in town and you're probably not going to like her very much, right? There's that possibility as well. So, but I like that. I like it. Yeah, and the 8, you're right, Lauren. The 8 can also mean a lot more work too. So that's all good. Oh, good. So Lisa's saying she's an 11 life path, having an 11 personal year. So far, extremely busy, but really good. I am so happy to hear that. It'd be interesting to see what your essence is. That's a great lineup. Okay, Julie, excellent. You're making the connection that you're being taken advantage of in your work. But remember, that's your choice, right? So if people take advantage of you and you don't say anything, then you told them it was okay, right? It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's hard to step up and hold yourself accountable and hold other people accountable as well, right? So Michelle, you're in a 9 life path with a 9 personal year. So typically, when you've got a 9 on a 9, 7 on a 7, 3 on a 3, whatever, it's more intense. But the 9 life path is somebody who already kind of releases and lets go of stuff, or should. Anyway, that's the goal. So sometimes that's actually in your best interest. I'm sorry, I've got allergies tonight. My nose is so itchy. Yeah, so it'd be interesting to hear how you're making out this year. But 9 out of 9, I mean, the 9, I'm not going to lie, the 9 is one of my favorite years because I love to see what needs to be let go of before I can really kick some serious ass on my year of 1, right? So next year is my year of 9. So who knows? Maybe I'll stop doing numerology. Probably not. But you don't know, right? So I've got that 5 essence still in there. And the 5 is about, changing it up, shaking it up, and unexpected endings. So who knows what I'm going to do. 7 personal year with the 6 essence. Okay, so the 7 you're thinking, and the 6 typically is about home and family. Is this where I want to live? Is this the relationship I want to be in? Is this the house I want to be in? Do I still want to talk to my sister? Do I need to forgive my brother? All that kind of stuff comes into play. Okay. Yeah, that's right. So, Leo Moon Goddess. Yeah, 7 is also a number that connects to the divine intuition, but it's also the number that causes you to second guess that connection, right? So it works both ways. There's a positive side and a negative side to each number, right? Excellent, Maria. You're coming from the heart space. I love to hear that. What session that you offer will break down the essences prior to going into 2024? I need help with this. Yeah, no problem, Cynthia. There's actually, I appreciate you asking that. I actually have a couple of different options, right? I have the soul signature reading, which goes into your life path, your heart's desire number, your expression number. These are the readings I've been doing for years, right? And it's just the whole full meal deal. And of course, we'll look at all your cycles. We'll look at your essences and all that, right? That's the soul signature reading. I also have a new offering, which is the soul signature reading as well, but it includes the soul signature reading, but it also has a 12-month future forecast. So we actually work through a calendar and we look at all the personal years and the essences and whatnot. And I go into the oracle cards and we do an angel message for each one of those months that will guide you particularly through all those months. So you're getting the full chart, you're getting all that, you're getting the recording. There's like 12 more pages of information that comes out with that. So it's a really intense reading. And then I've got just the 1 hour offering, which is quite limited, but it does allow you to look at your personal year and your essences if that's kind of all you really want to look at. So they're all on the website, AnnPerryNumerologist.com. They're all there. But love to see you again. That'd be awesome. Let's see. Birthday is so 5 and 2, that's 7, 7, 14, 5. Yeah, Matt, you are in, yes, correct. You are in a 5 personal year. I'm going to take things a little further, just because I can. And I like to. So, yes, you got your math right. Your birthday is May 20th. Okay, so May is a 5, 20th, 2 plus 0 equals 2. So that's going to be 5 plus 2 plus the universal year of 7. So that adds up to 14. But what do we know about the 14? We know that the 14 is a karmic debt. And it applies to the personal year as well. I wasn't going to go there, but you feel like I can do that with. I sense that. So you're not just in a year of 5. You're in a year of 14, 5. Okay, so that means that the karmic influence is in place. That means that it's not just about change for you. You've probably been feeling a little bit restricted this year, unable to make a decision about things because the 14, 5, the 5 says, I just want to do it, right? But the 4 in the 14, 5 says, no, Matt. Whoa, slow down, right? Get a plan in place. No, I want to spend some money. And the 4 comes in and goes, no, you have to save your money, right? So the 4 and the 5 are opposing forces. So it's not just like being in a 5 personal year where it's change and I just got to make it happen. It's not that. This is about the 14, 5, the karmic debt influence. It says kind of blew it in a previous lifetime, made some, rash decisions that were a little too quick. And now I'm paying for that. So just be careful this year that you pay attention to the plan, right? Rather than making a spontaneous decision to just do it and jump all over it, it's probably going to bite you in the ass, right? So you want to make sure that you're kind of slowing down the train a little bit. Next year, you're going to be a simple 6, right? It's all good. But this year is a little bit more complex for you. I hope that helped you in some way. For personal year, is 11 calculated as 11 or 2? It's actually, that's a great question, because you can actually have simply a 2 personal year if everything adds up to 20, 2 plus 0 plus 2. But if it adds up to 11, then it has more of an intensity around developing your intuition. It's about tapping into your creative potential and finding a way to use that creative potential to inspire other people. It's about focusing on creating relationships, double ones, creating the 2. Yeah, that's a good question. Okay. Change locations, yep. I'm not, oh, no, wrong, Brenda Lee. If you're talking about me, that's the second time that's come up today as to will I leave where I'm living? Are you kidding me? It took my whole lifetime to get here. I'm not leaving the water. Oh, I don't know, 2020. Okay, so Frida's saying, I'm not looking forward to my 22-4 essence in 2025. What did we just, I don't remember what your personal year is. 22-4 essence is great. I know some people are afraid of the 4, but the 22-4 essence is actually indicative of making something happen, right? So if you've got a 22-4 essence in a year of 1, for example, that's a new beginning with a 22-4 essence supporting you. That's awesome. That's great. It just depends on the year that you're in. So Lauren, in an essence of 1, that's always great. I love that. How do I figure out these numbers? Oh, so MJW, it was kind of a long process, so I'm sorry I can't really review it right now, but it is in this video, so you have to watch the video after the fact. It'll be posted up here on YouTube and also in Facebook, but I appreciate you asking. Excellent. Oh, Pamela, thank you. Essence number 1, personal year of 4. Awesome. Love that. That's excellent. Next year we'll have an essence of 2 and a personal year of 5. That could be an unexpected relationship. Nothing wrong with that. Deb's saying, my son is in a 1 personal year with a 19-1 essence until November. I'm sensing this is an especially trying time for him, but he is not communicating much. Yeah, that would be the effect of the 19-1. Okay, let's bring that up and talk about that for a second. Okay, so I personally like when I see, if I'm going to see the 19-1, I like to see it in a 1 personal year. That's just my thinking on it, because this brings in independent action. This brings in an interest in moving forward and excelling and whatnot. But he might be under a lot of pressure in his job, and he might feel he's not living up to their expectations, right? He could be spiraling around the drain a little bit, feeling like he's not, I know he's a perfectionist. He's an extreme craftsman, right? So he might be feeling a little, 2 things. He could be feeling sort of that he's not meeting his potential, possibly, and that's why he's not talking about it, keeping it kind of close. He might be really wanting to go out on his own. He might be just done working for somebody else. So the 19-1 brings in that independent action. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful energy for starting something new. But he also, in that 19-1 essence, the 9 that's in there says, I have to kick to the curb that which is standing in my way before I can actually have that new beginning, right? So there's a bit of contradiction. It's a tricky essence, there's no question. Depends on where it lands. Matt says, that's spot on. I've been diving into some past life work, trying to balance the extremes of responsibility and carefreeness from those experiences. Good for you. That's awesome. We need you in the group, Matt. Why are you not in my Clarity Seekers community? You need to be there, right? We need some more testosterone in there, guys. So that would be awesome. But I like the way you think, so you're welcome to check us out. Yeah, so all right. Well, unless anybody's got anything else really pressing that they want to ask, I think I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. We've got all kinds of stuff going on in the community. Let me just see if I can bring this up here for you. There. Boom. Clarity Seekers community. For those of you who don't know, I do have this community. It's an amazing place with amazing people. And we have new speakers coming in. Oh my God, next week we have Tim Walter coming in. He is like a ghost whisperer. He helps us to understand when we have ghosts in our homes, how do we manage them, how do we work with them, how do we release them if we need to. That's just one of the people that we've got coming in. We've got people who come in and teach us about what it is to be an empath, how to manage those energies. Psychic mediums. I had a beautiful psychic medium reading on Sunday because we have open sessions on Sunday afternoons for that. All kinds of really cool stuff going on. So I really would encourage you to check it out. It's $22 a month. You can cancel anytime. If you go, yeah, I don't have time for it right now, cancel. It's fine. No problem. No questions asked. But it's last month we met 11 times with 11 masterclasses and discussions. So you can't get that on Netflix, right? So anyway, that's just my little push for that. I hope that you'll check it out. And we'll see you in there. So I really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for being a part of this. Thanks for showing up and picking on my brain a little bit. Love it. And, if there's any other subjects you want me to cover, by all means, put it in the chat down below. I'm happy to do that. I'm going to do these a little bit more regularly because I just have too much fun. So I hope you guys do too. So I'll let you go for tonight. Love you all. I really appreciate you. Thank you for making my life just so great. I mean, I just love what I do and I do what I love. And I just have such an appreciation for anybody who will share a bit of time with me and want to learn a little bit more, because it just makes the world a better place when we can see each other in a different light. So thank you for that. I hope that you guys are creating your best day ever and that I will see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.